Shalom, WJC family. It is perhaps more fitting that I come to you by video today than it is in most weeks. As you know, our beautiful Westchester Jewish Center is closed, like so many synagogues now in schools and institutions in our community and beyond. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what's going on and the anxiety that we are all justifiably feeling right now as this story of the COVID virus unfolds and the inevitable nervousness and even fear creeps in. In our Torah portion, there are two examples of people coming together. One is the Torah portion refers back to Mount Sinai and tells us about people coming together for something sacred. It also tells us about the mikdash, about the sanctuary, the tabernacle that would be carried through the desert for people to come together and to gather for sacred purposes. And then, of course, famously in our Parshat Ki Tisa, the people also gather together for the wrong purposes. This is the parsha with the story of the golden calf. The people coming together in community, but obviously to do the wrong thing, coming together for idol worship and to turn their back on God. And the question is, what's the difference in these two stories? Why does sometimes community come together to build something sacred, a mikdash, and sometimes to build something that is the opposite of sacred, something that is beneath mundane, like the golden calf? And I think the answer is fear. Fear has an amazing way of guiding us to make the wrong decisions. Right before the people make the golden calf, Moses is up on Mount Sinai where he's been for 40 days. They just had revelation, right? God came down on the mountain. They saw God in this fiery, volcanic display of power. They heard God with their very own ears, not for long, because they said, oh, the sound, it's so powerful. It's so amazing that Moses, you go and you take down the message for us. We can't take it. So here they were so close to God. 40 days later, overwhelmed by fear, they think, and the text tells us, when the people saw that Moses was so long in coming down from the mountain, the people gathered against Aaron and said to him, come, make us a god who shall go before us. For that man Moses who brought us from the land of Egypt, we do not know what has happened to him. Right? Their imaginations have gotten away from them. Moses is absent, and they are afraid that they are alone, even despite this display of power that God has shown them, not just on the mountain, but beforehand at the sea, and before that in Egypt. Already they are afraid. So let's talk about fear for a second. Fear is never a good thing. Our rabbis teach us concern. Concern is good. When things need to be dealt with, we should be concerned. We should be careful. We should strategize and find ways to overcome those things. But fear is concern plus imagination. And concern plus imagination can be paralyzing. It can lead us to do the wrong thing. It is fear plus concern plus imagination that equals the fear that causes the sin of the golden calf. The illusion of control, of protection of Moses and God fizzle in this moment. And they are left with their imaginations, and ultimately their fear leads them to the wrong thing. There's a rabbi known as Rav Zundel of Salant, and he told the story about one night his grandson came running into his house, into his room in a state of panic, and he said, Grandfather, you won't believe what I seen outside. There's a giant man standing 2 stories high in the garden. He's dressed all in white and shaking back and forth. Reb Zundel immediately took the young boy by the hand and told him, let's go right away and you'll see that you are merely imagining this illusion and acting rashly. While comforting the boy, he led him outside to the garden, up close to the man dressed in white, and showed him that he was nothing but a white sheet of cotton draped over the clothesline and blowing in the wind. Now, continued Rab Zundel, be careful not to get all befuddled and excited because of your imagination. Look, what's going on now is not merely about our imagination. This is a cause for great concern, this virus. It is frightening. Our own illusion of protection and control over the elements around us is fizzling, just like the Israelites when they stood around Mount Sinai. But this is not the time to let our imagination get away from us. This is not the time to be paralyzed or to make poor decisions based on this concern and our imagination of what could come. And the way to cure that, the way to take our concern and address it, well, that is through community. Community coming together for the right reasons. That's why the first thing Moses does when he comes down from the mountain and sees the golden calf and God, the first thing they do is start to build the tabernacle. They start to build a place to come together for community that is appropriate, that is supportive, that makes sure everyone knows there is always a connection to God, to each other, and that which is greater than themselves. It is that brings back a sense of order. It is that helps them maintain calm. It is not that they have control over everything. We never have that. But it's understanding that no matter what comes our way in togetherness, we need not be afraid. Concerned, yes. Have things to address, of course. But afraid, fear, that imaginative parasite that lives in our hearts and turns us in the wrong directions. For that, there is never a need. And so at this moment, I pray that despite not being able to come together in our sanctuary and in our temple for the foreseeable future, I'm afraid, despite so many of our institutions being put on hold, that we remember what's really important. It's our connection to each other. It's our connection to God, our connection to that which is sacred. By supporting each other, by making sure people who are stuck in their homes have what they need, by making sure that those who we know are ailing, whether it's from this virus or just there are people in our community who are already sick, who are already in need, for whom it was already hard to get around. And those folks are going to need support. They're going to need groceries. They're going to need phone calls. We're going to work to help create all these things over the next week and weeks. And I hope you'll help us. There's so much we can do to help each other and support each other. And it is that help and that support that will keep us from the path of the golden calf and keep us on the path of the Mikdash. And to remind us that while we might not have control over everything, while we may still have to turn ourselves over to fates, we can do the things that we can do, support each other, follow all the guidelines we're hearing, wash our hands, keep distance from other people, no touching, stay out of large crowds. We can do those things. We can build community. Thank God we have these electronic devices to help us do so. And together, we can quell that fear. We can support each other and put our minds at ease in knowing that whatever we face, we will not face it alone. The Mikdash, that sacred community, that's us. And together we can address all of these concerns. We'll support each other come what may. I am glad to be part of this community. It is what is keeping me grounded, and I hope that we can help to keep you grounded as well. Please be in touch if there's anything we can do to help. And we wish you happy, healthy, beautiful Shabbat full of peace, and hopefully we'll see you online.